We steal the waves in the air and we never give them back. We are Lofi Poli Sci. Yes, we are. Lofi Poli Sci podcast coming at you. Michael Pickering here with that famous question. What's going on in the world today? And today, my friends, it's Tuesday and time for Tuesday's Top 10 list. Every Tuesday, we look at indicators and surveys to see what countries hold the top 10 rankings in particular categories. We look at things like GDP, biggest country, smallest country, happiest countries, and more. And no worries, Lo-Fi listeners. We go over what each category means before we jump into the list. And today's list, the opposite side of our list from last week, looking at income inequality in countries across the globe as measured by the Gini index or Gini coefficients, which is a measure from either 0 to 100 or 0 to 1, where 0 is perfect equality and 100 is perfect inequality. Last week, we went over the countries with the most equal incomes in the world. And remember, just as we discussed last week, these years fluctuate from the data because, well, countries don't report on their levels of income inequality every single year. Thus, our data are countries' Ginis from 2016 to 2019. But today, we look at those 10 countries with the worst income inequality on Earth. Now, let's not waste any more time. Let's hit the list. Coming in at and tied for number 10, Costa Rica and Honduras at 48.2 in 2019. Number 8, Panama at 49.8 in 2019. Number 7, Zimbabwe at a 50.3 in 2019. Number 6, St. Lucia with a 51.2 in 2016. And now to our bottom 5, and tied for number 5, Angola and Colombia with a 51.3 in 2018 and 2019, respectively. Number 3, Brazil with a 53.4 in 2019. Number 2, Eswatini at a 54.6 in 2016. And number 1, the lowest Gini index in the world between 2016 and 2019, Sao Tome and Principe with a 56.3 in 2017. But now, let's dig into the list and see just what these numbers tell us. And first off, it should be quite apparent to you that this list is pretty heavily geographically biased. 6 of our 10 countries come from Latin America and the Caribbean, specifically 3 of them in Central America, and the remaining 4, all African countries. Secondly, you might be inclined to say that the entire list looks to be made of developing countries. However, that's not entirely correct. Costa Rica and Panama both have GDP per capitas over $12,000 a year. They are very much middle-of-the-road countries, and St. Lucia is right behind with a $9,000 a year GDP per capita. And Brazil is one of the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They most certainly are no longer a developing country. Even Colombia has a GDP per capita of over $5,000 a year, which isn't great, but then again, it really isn't that bad if you're considering what a developing country's GDP per capita may look like. For instance, our number 5 on the list, Angola, has a GDP per capita of only $1,800 a year. That's very much a developing area's GDP per capita. So we can't say this list is all low-income countries. However, you could argue that there are no developed countries on the list of countries with the worst income inequality in the world. However, if you look at gross domestic product of countries, meaning GDP, Brazil has the 13th highest GDP in the world, meaning the 13th largest economy in the world. You could make an argument for Brazil being developed just by that figure alone. So what can we say from our list today? In all honesty, just like last week, not necessarily all that much. Remember, our data are from different years because Gini is not compiled every year for every country. And what's more, not every country even has a recent Gini score. So theoretically, could there be some countries that don't have figures for income inequality that are in fact more unequal than our list here? Yes, that is in fact possible. And this is a perfect example of why you need to know your data. And we can only pull so much from any data set we use in life. I mean, is it interesting and useful to know where countries are comparatively to other countries as far as income inequality? Sure it is. It's extremely useful when looking at things like global poverty and international policies to help alleviate poverty in developing areas. Is a list like the one we created today necessarily that useful? No, not necessarily, especially considering all the holes in the data set. So then, we must come back around to that question we always end on. Does this list even matter? And to that I say, a resounding yes, it does. Because it should make us look at numbers and statistics and lists a whole lot more closely. I mean, numbers are great. I love math, I love lists, but that doesn't mean every single statistic out there is useful. Plus, when thinking about development and thinking about decreasing poverty around the world, there's more than just income that we should be concerned about. But that, my friends, is a list for another time. And that's this Tuesday's Top 10 list. Add December 2nd to your calendar and come see Lofi Poli Sci live. And are you interested in writing into the show? Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, myself on LinkedIn. Email us, let your voice be heard. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Peace and well-being to all my human beings out there. Much love and always the best. Pickering, signing off.